All right, guys, it's the big one today. What to do if you don't have time to practice. I mean, I see this all the time. Or really, what to do if you don't have time to practice or you have other obligations. You know, I see comments all the time of players coming to me and saying, you know, I've got school. I mean, not right now. Or I've got, you know, I don't have that much time and all this. So let's go over a few things you can do if you don't have time to practice. Let's get this out of the way first. Is you do have time to practice. Now, before you get up in arms about that and go, well, you don't know my life, you don't know my schedule, let me just make you abundantly aware of something, is that the most successful people in the world will never use the excuse, and the players as well, the most successful players would never use the excuse of, I don't have enough time. It's what you're doing with your time. Really take a look at your schedule, your day, what you're doing on a daily basis, and ask yourself, well, is it that I don't have time, or is it that I'm spending my time on things that are not serving me, or I'm spending my time on things that I could be spending time on something else with. So if you're, for example, let's use the common example, one that's very easy to use. If you're, for example, playing video games all the time, watching TV, watching Netflix, just wasting time on social media, all of these things where, you know, you kind of go on them and then like 30 minutes to an hour has passed before you even know it. If you're doing those things and then saying to yourself, I don't have enough time to practice, you're fooling yourself. You know, you do have enough time to practice. You know, even getting just 30 minutes a day of practicing is going to improve you significantly if you stay consistent with that. So I guarantee you, you have the time to practice. So let's get that out of the way. You have enough time. The most successful, you know, players in the world, the most successful people in the world, they have the time. They just prioritize what they do. And if you want to become a better footballer, one thing you need to prioritize is becoming a better footballer. That means putting in the practice, planning out your meals, getting the recovery in, whatever it may be. You have to prioritize, you know, and I don't care if you have school, I don't care if you have summer camp, I don't care whatever else you have going on, you can make time. You can find 30 minutes to an hour a day to get in your training. And you know, go from there. So how do we do this? One way to do this is write out a list, and I learned this recently, and I realized I was doing this without even realizing. But I heard, I was listening to a podcast, and I heard this advice. I'm like, that's a really good idea. And it's kind of something I do with the 30-day challenge. On a lot of my 30-day challenges, it's not always habits I want to be doing, it's habits that I don't want to be doing. Meaning I might have something like eat junk on there, and I check that off if I go a whole day without eating junk. I might have something like no fap on there. So obviously to complete that, I have to not do something. So write out a list of things to not do during the day. Meaning, if you watch too much Netflix, either limit it or put it on your do not do list. If you are watching too much TV, if you are internet surfing, and have this list near you so that you can remind yourself, okay, what am I not doing? And once you get the things that you don't want to do out of the way, or the things that are your distractors out of the way, and you're aware of what they are, you can start focusing more of your time on the things you want to get done. And this applies to more than just football. But for football, if you really think you don't have enough time, you do. You just need to, you know, keep track of your day and see where you're spending your time. And you have to also factor in energy. You know, when you're on social media, when you're watching Netflix and binge watching Netflix, when you're watching too much TV, when you're playing that video game too long, it's zapping your energy as well. And I'm not kicking these things. I'm not saying you can't do these things. But if you are doing these things and then saying, I don't have enough time to practice, again, you're fooling yourself, you're hurting yourself. You absolutely do have the time to practice. You're just not prioritizing it. So start making, if you're finding you don't have time to practice, start really committing to making your training your #1 priority, or at least one of your main priorities. Write down a list of your distractors, the things that you spend your time on that don't serve you. And this may be hard because there may be things you write down and go, but I like doing that. Write them down anyway, so at least you're aware of them. And then really try and see if you have time or not, because I'm going to bet you have at least 30 minutes here or an hour there to do your priorities. Remember, priorities first. Factor in your energy as well. Do your priorities when you have the most energy, okay? So if you really think you don't have time to practice, first thing you do. Second thing is identify your distractions. Third thing, prioritize your training. All right, guys, so I hope that's beneficial and helpful for you, and I'll see you in the next video.